Hey everybody, welcome to Drool-Worthy Streaming Gear. Let's go. We got three great manufacturers. We're going to start off today with Magewell. I'm really excited about their USB Fusion product and seeing everything they got going on. We've got Ryan Brenneman joining us. Ryan is the Director, Product Development and Support for MVD, which is a Magewell distributor. And Ryan actually, I believe, is using USB Fusion as part of these presentation. Ryan, how's it going today? You got a pretty cool studio going on. I gotta check this out.
So really excited to be here. Obviously, what you see behind me is kind of our studio set for being able to present. We've done this a couple times, and yeah, we're using USB Fusion to talk about the product, but we're also incorporating that with software-based live streaming services. So I'm actually running everything through vMix, just from the number of inputs and resources that we have. And so USB Fusion is not only a great standalone product, as we'll get into that a little bit later, but also pairing it with OBS, vMix, Wirecast, and other encoders such as our Ultra encode, which you love, and the Ultra Stream. So I'd be remiss if I didn't first mention about MVD, because our role here is as the exclusive distributor for Magewell in the US. And so when anyone places an order, whether that be on Amazon, B&H, Adorama, or through a local reseller, which we love to support to keep that business local, it's being fulfilled by our specialist in our warehouse and also being supported by our team here in the US. And so that's an important factor that we like to talk about, because you're going to be able to speak to not only account managers, but also a US-based support team, which interfaces really well with the team at Magewell headquarters in Nanjing. So my role is as Director of Product Development and Support. So I get the really cool thing to use these products in everyday productions, as I'll show you in some use case scenarios, and then provide that information back to our engineering folks who are able to then adapt this. And so as we get started here, we're talking about USB Fusion. This is a product that we announced initially at NAB last year. And since that time, it's gone through iterations of firmware updates and app updates. But the device itself is a very small form factor device, and it has multiple inputs and outputs at its core. It expands on what I think a lot of people know us for, which is the USB capture devices. Uh, that kind of is how Magewell cut their teeth in the industry. They're flat out probably the most reliable. I'll say it is the most reliable USB capture device on the market. We have flavors from 1080 to 4K, and we're doing that all through USB-A and USB-C inputs now into your computer. So USB Fusion expanded on that product and platforms. What we know is that when we try to put more video into a computer, we hit limitations for USB buses. And that was kind of the thought process around USB Fusion is, hey, why not leverage a hardware to be able to input multiple devices, multiple inputs, and then be able to switch that internal. And then it started expanding from there. So I'd like to go over real quick the device overview. And we just fire that up here real quick. So I'm actually using a Fusion to control this presentation, which is important to note, and I'll give you a couple screenshots. But the Fusion that I held up has a bunch of different I/O, and I'll apologize. I know sometimes Zoom, the small text maybe not come through. We're recording a high-def version of this as well locally that we can share with you. But as you'll see, it fits kind of in the palm of your hand, and it's feature-packed in terms of I/O that you'll see. So we're going to have not only the power, but we'll have a USB-C out. That's like all of our other USB capture devices where it's a driverless input into a computer. So it's instantly recognized as a webcam. You also see that it has an RJ45 for Ethernet. It has the USB for a webcam input, two HDMI inputs, and an HDMI output. Now, within the software, you're able to configure those into various settings from loop through. You can change so your HDMI output can actually be just dedicated on one of your inputs, and then your USB-C can go into your computer as your program view or vice versa. So here's a quick drawing of how this looks Some people like the schematics of it. On the front, there's also some additional I/O. There's a 3.5 line in and then a headset. So you can use this completely in a desktop type scenario where this is sitting here. It can interface with, say, if you're a dual monitor setup, your left screen, and now you know that you're only going to share your one screen. Because like everyone else, I get anxiety, Corey. I don't know if you do. When I hit share screen in Zoom or Teams, and I'm like, okay, what are they seeing? Is it proprietary information?
Yep.
Or, look, there's some downtime throughout the day for many workers, and are they perusing on YouTube? So this alleviates that anxiety. And so, yeah, so this is the device. On top of it, I'd like to show you using the physical buttons of the device. I'm going to come back here to an input, and let's just bring up a screen for you to see this here real quick. You'll see my hand. I have a unit on my desktop, and I apologize, it's dark in the studio, but watch how fast this changes when I press the buttons on top.
SRT relay.
So I'm flipping through the various different inputs using 5 buttons on top, and I'm able to cycle through, and this is happening near instantaneously. And it's just one of the powerful things with Fusion because it has a lot of processing power on the back end, which is really fantastic. It's the first design of its kind for Magewell, where there's a chip on a board, the carrier board. And so we just get a lot of flexibility and horsepower with this particular unit. So this is kind of the device itself, of how it looks with the 5 buttons across the top. We've now made those buttons customizable. So they used to correlate with the inputs on the back for HDMI and webcam. And we've come out with a new firmware that now makes those buttons be able to control anything. So we'll go through the various different inputs that you can bring into this other than the I/O on the back. As I mentioned, there is a companion app. It's free. And so iOS 7 or Android 7 and later and iOS 12 and later, you're able to download and then pair this with the Fusion. Let's give you a look at what the app looks like here real quick. So this is the capturing the screen of an iPad. You can see the different layouts that's available and how you can bring scenes in. We'll go over that a little bit more, but the companion app is free, and it's what unleashes the power versus just a physical button switcher type mode. And so, as I said, the app's available on Android and iOS. So I wanted to talk quickly about use case scenarios because I think it's important to wrap our mind around. One of the things that we hear a lot at trade shows is that the device is so powerful that it can be put into so many different applications. But for streaming media, I think a lot of folks are interested in live streaming and broadcast and how this device can be utilized for that. But there is use case scenarios from everyone from the at-home worker to the teacher. We're seeing Fusion interest in judicial setups where I think the Johnny Depp trial really highlighted this, right? Creating a powerful presentation for the world to watch. And so USB Fusion is able to input all of those devices and handle kind of the presentation control for those. And so I'm just going to quickly change over to a different presentation directly within Fusion, and I made that switch near instantaneously, and I'm actually loading what would be considered a completely different preset. So what you're seeing here is an image from a public school system where Fusion is used as a confidence monitor and wireless clicker. So if you could imagine, now somebody comes behind the podium, just like in this photo here, and they're able to control their entire presentation themselves. They can telestrate directly over top of it, but they have complete control. The other thing that I am acutely aware of is that everyone builds PowerPoints in like font 4. And so you can't see it on the screens around the room. They're squinting to be able to read their own presentation. And by leveraging Fusion to have this type of content display, now they're able to see their presentation much easier and quicker. Here is a quick video of just this being demonstrated. You'll see on the screen behind where as the admin assistant for the school system is circling and telestrating, that's in near real time to the monitor behind it. I know that the red circle may not show up on the back screen from the stroke thickness, but here's another layout. So this isn't a conference. This is actually a technology summit that I live stream each year. There's 2 screens on each side, and we're able to leverage Fusion to not only serve as a wireless confidence monitor, in addition to the confidence monitor that's already in the room, but now, again, they have complete control. The difficult thing is engaging with people to a deeper level. And so when you have those 2 screens on either side of the room, what you'll typically notice for most speakers is as they turn around, they're not facing the audience. If it's an LED wall, you're never going to use something like a laser pointer anyway. Well, with Fusion, it has all those features built into it. So now I get to look directly at the audience. I can navigate everything that I'm doing, and I can maintain better eye contact. No different than how I'm using a teleprompter right now and looking at you, Corey, directly into my camera lens. We're creating a better engaging conversation. And so leveraging Fusion has those capabilities and characteristics. So what you're seeing is the standard contractually obligated confidence monitor, and then just below that is USB Fusion that goes up to the podium level. So I have a quick
is not only can it serve
24-second
contractually as the confidence monitor, but now you have control.
And I'll just take the volume down on this, but what you're seeing is how I'm telestrating on a screen, and it is near instantaneously going to the confidence monitor. I can load up a presentation for the speaker, so now I'll activate a pre-recorded video that a speaker would like to play, and with confidence, they know it's going out across, they're maintaining eye contact with everyone. And the cool thing with Fusion is it's programmable. So at the end of that video, I told it to go to a black screen. So that's a really powerful way to be able to use this in different use case scenarios. And I think this is totally applicable for most people that are doing this type of live production environment. But we've also heard from big names, some of the largest sports broadcasters in the world, that just need this to serve as a telestrator, because it is the simplest to use telestrator on the market, as I'll show here in a few moments.
I was about to say, telestration is one of those things where in the last 20 years, it's come a long way from where it was, where you had to have a Fox box and do all this kind of like key fill over it to get a good telestrator, tens of thousands of dollars. So that's a really cool feature.
Yeah, and it was something that what we had heard at NAB New York was like, look, there's a lot of custom scripts for this. And so I think, as a lot of people know, when you have those custom configurations, any small thing that kind of goes awry, you're trying to figure out, well, what of the 7 steps is broken, and then work to fix this. With this, you literally feed an HDMI signal into Fusion, and you're good to go. Now, one of the questions we get is, okay, let's say I'm in an SDI workflow. Well, here's the great thing. It has a USB input that's meant for a webcam. It doesn't have to be a webcam. That USB input can bring in audio devices, such as a podcasting microphone. You can also use one of our USB captures that's SDI and bring that into Fusion. And so now you have 2 HDMI inputs and an SDI input. So it's expandable in terms like that. But when you can just input that in, hand the talent an iPad, which they're so familiar at using, and literally just draw directly over top. And here's an example of that. I'm literally just drawing right over top of the screen, and it's in near real time shown. So I think that's one of the powerful things that we definitely heard was the telestration feature. So I want to go into the app and do a little bit of a deeper dive into how we build out these presentations. So I'd like to go ahead and bring up that screen here real quick so you can see this. And I'm going to give you the view of program and the app. So I'm capturing my iPad screen, as well as above me, you'll see the program view output as we're making those changes. So on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see what we call scenes. And by tapping them, I can quickly go through. That's really no different than if I'm pressing the physical buttons on a device. As I said, historically, when the device first launched, those buttons were hard set to the inputs. Now, through a web interface and a GUI, we can actually customize those to be anything. So you'll see that I've loaded up several scenes, if you will, here. But it's as simple to add a scene as just hitting the plus button at the bottom. And there we have our options to add our HDMI inputs, our webcam, or we can bring in items such as our image, our videos, PDFs. And so it really creates powerful presentations because it isn't just the inputs. Bring in an MOV file, an MP4 file, JPEG, PNG images. You can bring in PDF documents. And you can also load a web page. And so you just tap the plus and you're pretty much good to go. So I'd like to go ahead and let's just add a video for real quick. And let's just say I'm going to bring in this walkthrough. This is a 12-minute video.
Hi, I'm Ryan with Mobile Video Device.
And there you can see that it's come across. And the cool thing is I can rearrange. So if I hold down on the left-hand side for the scene, you can see that moving. Now I can reorganize stuff.
If I hit here at a
on
conference
this
that I
button
just
here,
live streamed, talking
pause
about
this.
how
I can go ahead and copy that, or I can give this another name. So I can give common names to the inputs that I'm going to be bringing in, or I can delete that off of my presentation if I brought in the wrong item. The other thing, then I can bring in various images. And at the top, you can see I can bring in videos and PDFs if I just accidentally tap the wrong thing. But if I want to bring in a quick image, say this is a public meeting image, now that's up, live, and ready to go. So it's very versatile in what you want to bring in. Finally, I'll bring in a web page real quick. And so let's just come in here, and we'll just go to magewell.com. And right there, through the app, we've now loaded a web page. I'm using the app just like I normally would to scroll through. All of my hyperlinks are available, so I can tap on any box. It's so powerful that you can even load YouTube and navigate through all of the videos and thumbnails. The reason why we decided to put this in was from a very large broadcasting company that does TV news. And they said, hey, how great would it be for a reporter to be standing on set, and let's say they're talking about wildfires, and they want to load up the US wildfire map and interact with the map itself. And so now you can hand somebody an iPad and they can navigate through the entire web page and create this really immersive environment, whereas before maybe the control room had to do that function, and now they're trying to see on the teleprompter what are they talking about, what's live. It just creates a really easy way to do this. You stick a Fusion in a control room and give an iPad to a reporter, and they're off and running. And so that's the way that you can add in the web page. So the other thing that you can do, if you see if I hit plus at the bottom, I can add an advanced screen. What this is bringing up is the ability for me to add in picture-in-picture or side-by-side. So I can select in the upper left here, I can do a picture-in-picture where I add in my main. And I'll just add in a feed from vMix. And then I'm going to bring in a secondary video. And I'll go ahead and mute that here since that's got audio in it. What you'll notice is I can drag this around the entire screen. I can scale this any way I want. But let's say I need to rotate it 90 degrees because this is going to be in portrait versus landscape. I can do that. I can flip this both horizontally and vertically. I can crop it. And here's something that's so crazy powerful because I can literally just crop this thing down to a 1 by 1 box, hit done, and it's totally scaled. And this is being done in real time on the iPad. And that's one of the cool things because the processing power is on the Fusion itself. And so we're able to do a lot of these features that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do. And then cool things, you can add a border to it if you wanted to highlight that, the thickness of the border and whatnot, as you'll see here. And when I'm done, I just hit done. And now that's available as an input for me. And so I can bounce back and forth between those various different scenes on the left-hand side. So the toolbar functions are at the bottom of this, and this is something that continuously gets enhanced. So you'll notice that we have not only like a spotlight feature where I can drop a laser dot onto the screen to highlight something, but I can hit our pen, and now that gives me my telestration features. But I also have highlighters, so it can add in a gradient so that you can add some layer of transparency. I have the option for shapes. So if I want to draw an arrow to something, it's as simple as that. Or I can add text right onto the presentation. And so I can remove that away. I can change the style, both in color and stroke, width of the pen. If I add something, I'm going to turn off auto dismiss, but I can just come through here. I can make a bunch of stuff. And let's say I just want to delete a little bit of it. I can use an eraser. Or down here on the bottom, you'll see a trash can and clean. I tap that, and all of that telestration goes away. I click something off here in the advanced tab, and it's the auto dismiss. And this is a feature that I probably love one of the most out of everything. I can set my auto dismiss to a particular time, so 2 seconds. And when I draw, as you had seen, now that text will automatically disappear. So like in sports where there's fast-paced, fast-moving things, and you want that to go away, you can do that. If you're a teacher in a classroom environment and you want to pull up, say, a whiteboard really quick, I can do that. I can turn off auto dismiss. And now, let's see. My sister's a math teacher. I think I got it.
You sure about that?
Okay.
Is that your final answer?
It's my final answer. It allows me a way to interact and walk around a classroom and do various different things, whereas most rooms now have digital boards instead of a traditional whiteboard. Now you can use Fusion in the classroom environment, but you don't have to have just a whiteboard. You can have a blackboard, and you can change your, and we'll just do 5 + 5, Corey, and I think that's going to be 10.
I've been told 1 + 1 is 3, though, so I'm just letting you know that.
Well, it depends on what project you get into.
So there's a ton of questions. Not to interrupt.
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
Just, got a ton of questions I'd like to get to, and then
let's fire off.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, and then we got a giveaway. So we do have a giveaway that we're gonna do right after questions. So one, I liked this. Oh, is the audio input a mono balanced input on the 3.5 millimeter? It's mono, or is it stereo?
No, that's a stereo. I'm sorry, it's mono. It is
mono
mono
input. That's from
Yeah.
Linda Costigan. That's from Linda. So it is mono.
Mono.
Can a battery? Casey asks, can a battery pack work with the Fusion?
Yeah. Cool thing is that as long as you can give it 12 volts, you're good. So there's a couple different battery pack solutions that can power that.
So this is interesting, and I know we don't like to compare products, but I have A10 Mini Pro in front of me, just full disclosure, right? So somebody asked, so Andy asked, why the Magewell Fusion and not a Blackmagic A10 Mini Extreme? The price is the same. So Ryan, let me answer that based on what I've heard, right? You have the telestrator features, you have the iPad companion app. I mean, there's a ton of it's really the overlay features that set this apart from like a normal switcher, correct?
Yeah, sure. It pairs perfectly with vMix and OBS, where you may have additional capture inputs, but this is really designed for a different purpose. Sure, you can do the basic switch between sources, but like you said, telestration, overlays, and creating dynamic presentations by inputting web pages and stuff of that nature, you never would have been able to do that with any other tool as easily as this. And I say that, look, every production should have a Fusion in their life. Because even if it is just merely to do a confidence monitor, you can now do a wireless confidence monitor really fast and really efficiently.
Yeah, the wireless controller features were really cool. I had looked at the product when it came out, and I didn't really understand it, and this really helped me understand it. Kurt asks, "Is there an API for an external system to select inputs?" I thought
There's a
that's
full
coming.
list of APIs written.
Nice.
It's already out. It's available on Magewell's website right now. I think you'll notice that Magewell writes a lot of APIs for our products because we want people to use that with their existing control systems.
We do have time for one more question. I'm trying to find it. There's a lot of questions. You're gonna have a lot of answering to do, Ryan, after this.
Yeah, I'll follow up.
Okay, so latency. Okay, what is the latency when plugging in a USB webcam to this box? So
I haven't measured the latency, but it's almost
instantaneous.
non-existent. It's just
50 mil?
Yeah, it's correct. Now you'll have processing if you're going to scale the video down, if you're going to be doing various things, because you're leveraging the chip. So I can adjust color, I can adjust my rec space, I can do 709 on it, I can adjust my hue. That's being done on the device and not on your computer, which, obviously it takes a little bit of processing, but it's all near instantaneous, and even to telestration. it doesn't feel unnatural. You know how sometimes you get with a digital whiteboard and you're writing and there's that lag? There is no lag when you're writing on the iPad.
That's awesome.
Or the only thing I could...
Go ahead.
Good. I was just going to mention, we didn't get into it because the web interface is not a large portion of this. Sometimes it's hard to see the web interface, but there's an entire web interface. And so when I put the iPad at the podium, I pull up the web interface and I can nearly do everything on the web interface that I can through the iPad as far as selecting scenes, adding in overlays and things of that nature. And the only other thing I want to mention, and I just want to quickly show because I think this speaks significantly, is that all of the inputs have scalars. And so let me just come back over here to, I'm locked on cloud. But all of the inputs have scalars. So from my HDMI ins, my input in right now is running 1920 1080 at 2398. Input 2 is at 5994. My webcam is 1280 by 720 at 60, and my program out is 1920 by 1080 at 60. And so I think that speaks as well to the power of the device because I can scale everything. It doesn't matter, and this is really designed for the person who may not be in productions.
Yeah, you're talking to a production person, and you just made my skin crawl, Ryan. Get out! That's too many different formats, bro. Come on.
I know. Listen, I purposefully did it that way, but you don't see the device having any hiccups. It handles everything perfectly fine. And I'm running, 42% on the CPU and 36 on the memory.
Nice. The prize winner of the USB Fusion is Robin Sparks. Robin, congratulations on winning the USB Fusion. Ryan, thank you so much. I got to go to our next manufacturer. If you had a question in the Q&A or in the chat, Ryan will answer either in the chat on the questions or get back to you. I'm sure he will get back to everybody. Ryan, thank you so much. Love the USB Fusion. I'm excited to do an unboxing very soon.
And we'll get one up to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.